There are about 40 seconds every morning that quietly decide your entire day. Your alarm goes off, your eyes open in the dark, and before you've had a single conscious thought, some part of your brain has already run the math. The cold floor, the long day ahead, that thing you swore you'd finally start, and it has already made the decision for you. Your hand reaches out, the alarm goes quiet. You tell yourself you'll make up for it later, and 40 seconds after that, you're asleep again, having lost a fight you were never even awake for. Then, around noon, the guilt shows up. You open a new tab. You watch another video about self-discipline. You write a new plan with neater handwriting than the last one. And for about 3 days it works, then it doesn't, and you land in the exact same spot thinking the exact same sentence. What is wrong with me? Most people will tell you the answer is willpower. They'll say you're soft. They'll tell you to want it more, to stop making excuses, to just push through. But here's the part almost nobody tells you, and it's the reason discipline feels so brutally hard for you and so effortless for other people. Highly disciplined people are not better at forcing themselves. They barely force themselves at all. In 2012, a team of psychologists led by Wilhelm Hoffman and Roy Baumeister ran a study where they interrupted people throughout their ordinary day and asked what they were craving and what they were resisting. If discipline were about willpower, the most disciplined people should have been the ones resisting the hardest, and most often. They found the exact opposite. The people who scored highest in self-control reported weaker desires, less inner conflict, and less resistance overall. They weren't winning the fight. They were somehow never in it, which means the thing you've been training for years, gritting your teeth, forcing, pushing, is not the skill. It might not even be the right game. Today on Inside Logic, we're going to break down what discipline actually is inside your brain, why your nervous system was quietly taught to hate it, and the 5 specific ways you can trick that same brain into wanting the thing it currently runs from. Not through motivation, not through pressure, through conditioning. Let's get into it. To understand the trick, you have to understand one strange, underrated idea from psychology. It comes from a paper published in 1992 by a researcher named Robert Eisenberger. Effort is not just a decision you make. Effort is a sensation. It has a specific texture in your body. The heaviness in your chest before a hard task, the tightness behind your eyes, the pull toward the exit. And because effort is a sensation, it can be conditioned. It can be trained exactly the way a taste or a smell or a sound can be trained. Eisenberger's research showed something that sounds almost too convenient to be true. When effort is repeatedly followed by reward, the sensation of effort itself starts to take on reward value. The heaviness stops registering as pain and starts registering as a signal that something good is coming. And here's the part that matters most for you. That conditioning generalizes. Train it in one area, and it leaks into completely unrelated areas of your life. Liking effort is not a personality type you were born with or without. It's a learned association. Some people got trained into it by accident. You didn't. That's the entire difference. And in 2018, a group of researchers, including Michael Inslicht at the University of Toronto, published a paper called The Effort Paradox that put the final nail in the old story. Their point was blunt. Yes, effort is costly and animals avoid it. But that's only half the picture. Humans routinely choose things because they're hard. Nobody climbs a mountain for the view at the top. There are helicopters for that. Effort doesn't only cost value. It can add value. So actually wanting the hard thing isn't a fantasy, it's a documented human capacity. Yours just hasn't been switched on yet. The dopamine signal walks backwards, so how does it get switched on? For that, we need to look at the strangest, most exploitable mechanism in your entire brain. You've heard that dopamine is the reward chemical. That's slightly wrong. And the correction is where all your leverage lives. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was recording individual dopamine neurons while animals learned to expect a reward. At first, the neurons fired at the moment the reward arrived. Obvious enough, but as the animal learned that a light always came before the reward, something remarkable happened. The dopamine burst moved. It stopped firing at the reward and started firing at the light. And when the reward finally showed up, exactly as expected, the neurons barely responded at all. The signal walks backwards in time. It leaves the prize and attaches itself to whatever reliably predicts the prize. Think about what that means for your life right now. Your brain is not producing that spike when you finish a task. It's producing it the moment you pick up your phone, because your phone reliably predicts something good. That's why reaching for it feels like relief before you've even unlocked it. Your brain has run this loop 10,000 times. Now ask the ugly question. What does opening your notebook reliably predict? What does the first minute at your desk reliably predict? For most people, the honest answer is nothing good. It predicts strain, self-criticism, and the discovery of how far behind you are. So your brain does exactly what it was built to do. It flinches. You don't have a discipline problem, you have a prediction problem. And predictions can be rewritten. Where your prediction got written. So where did yours get written in the first place? This part usually lands the hardest, and it has nothing to do with you being lazy. Think back to how you were actually rewarded growing up, not what you were told. What actually produced warmth, attention, relief. It came for the A on the report card, the trophy, the finished project, the acceptance letter. Everyone celebrated the outcome, and the effort, the 3 weeks of ugly, boring, unglamorous work that produced it. Nobody threw a party for that. At best, it went unmentioned. At worst, you were told you should have started earlier. So your nervous system learned a very reasonable lesson. Effort is the toll. Effort is the unpleasant tax you pay at the gate, and the reward waits on the other side. Under that arrangement, effort never once gets paired with anything good, which is the precise opposite of the condition Eisenberger showed you need. You weren't trained into industriousness. You were trained out of it, by a system that only ever clapped at the finish line. And there's a version of this that's even more brutal, the kid who found things easy. If you got the good grades without studying, you were rewarded specifically for not needing effort. Effort became evidence that something was wrong, that you weren't as smart as everyone said. So the second a task got hard, your whole identity flinched, and you learned to close the laptop before anyone found out. Either way, you arrive at adulthood with a brain that has filed effort as pure cost, and then you do something that makes it dramatically worse. Here's the part I want you to sit with, because it explains why years of trying have made you less disciplined instead of more. Every time you finally force yourself through a session, the workout you dragged yourself to, the 2 hours you white-knuckled, how does it end? Almost never with satisfaction. It ends with you closing the laptop and thinking, that was awful. I barely got anything done. I'm so far behind. Tomorrow I need to do twice this. The last thing your brain files alongside the sensation of effort is punishment, which means you've been conditioning yourself backwards. Every forced, joyless, self-critical session is a rep that teaches your nervous system that effort reliably predicts feeling terrible about yourself. The harder you force, the deeper you carve the aversion. That's why the people who have tried the most are often the ones who now feel the most physical resistance to starting. Their brains have simply learned the lesson very, very well. So the fix cannot be more force. More force is just more reps of the wrong thing. And here's the thing that will save you the most time. You are not going to think your way into liking discipline. You can't decide to enjoy something any more than you can decide to find a smell pleasant. And motivation won't do it either. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are weather. The goal is not to want it more. The goal is to change what the act predicts. You're not building willpower, you're building an association. Here are the 5 ways to do it. 1. Pay the effort, not the outcome. This is Eisenberger's finding turned into a rule. Stop attaching your reward to results. Results are slow, unreliable, and mostly outside your control, which makes them terrible teachers. Attach the reward to the act. Concretely, the moment you finish a session, before you evaluate anything, you mark it. Tick the box. Say the sentence out loud. I showed up. Whatever it is, it has to fire within seconds of the effort, and it has to be unconditional. The cost of this one is that your ego will hate it. It feels like rewarding mediocrity, but you're not grading performance here. You're pairing a sensation with a reward, and the pairing only works if the effort itself is what gets paid. 2. Move the reward to the doorway. Since dopamine migrates backwards onto the cue, you deliberately put something good at the entrance of the hard thing instead of the exit. The cleanest version comes from a study by Catherine Milkman and her colleagues at Wharton. They gave people gripping audiobooks, the kind you actually want to keep listening to, but they were only allowed to hear them at the gym. Gym attendance jumped by about half. The workout stopped being the price of admission and became the only place a good thing lived. Your version, the specific coffee you only drink at the desk, the album you only play while training, the chair you only sit in to write. One rule, it has to be exclusive. If you get it anyway, it predicts nothing. And one honest note, in that same study, the effect faded over the following weeks. So treat this as the thing that gets you through the door in the first month. not the thing that carries you for a decade. 3. Shrink the entry until refusing is absurd. Your brain doesn't resist work. It resists the anticipated size of the work. Write the chapter triggers the flinch. Open the document and write one sentence doesn't, because there's nothing there to dread. So you shrink the entry point until saying no to it feels ridiculous. 2 minutes, 1 page, 1 set. And the entry is the whole commitment. If you stop there, it counted. In 2010, a team at University College London tracked people building new daily habits and found that automaticity comes from repetition in a consistent context, taking somewhere around 2 months on average with enormous variation. Some people got there in under 3 weeks. Some needed the better part of a year. But here's the finding to hold on to. Missing a single day did not break the curve. It didn't reset anything. The people who failed were the ones who quit, not the ones who slipped. The cost here is that it feels insultingly small. Good. Small is what you can repeat, and repetition is the only currency this system accepts. 4. Design the room, not your resolve. Remember what the disciplined people in that Hoffman study were actually doing. They weren't resisting more temptations. They were encountering fewer. Follow-up research found they do it on purpose. People with higher self-control were more likely to choose the quiet room over the social one before the studying ever began. That's the whole move. Every decision you make about your environment while you're calm is a decision your tired 11 p.m. self doesn't have to win. Phone in another room, not face down on the desk, clothes laid out the night before. The app deleted rather than resisted. You are not being weak by removing temptation. You are doing precisely what the strongest self-regulators in the research already do. 5. Never end on failure. This is the smallest one, and it might be the most powerful because it directly repairs the damage we talked about earlier. The final 30 seconds of any session are what your brain files. So stop ending in the wreckage. Don't finish a workout on the set you failed. Don't close the laptop mid-paragraph while spiraling about how little you did. Deliberately end on something small you can complete. One easy set, one clean sentence, one finished small task. And then stop there, on purpose, while it still feels good. You're writing the last line of the story your nervous system will remember. Make it a win, every single time, even a tiny one. Because tomorrow, when you approach that same task, your brain will consult its records and hand you a prediction, and you're the one who gets to write the records. What actually changes? Do this long enough, and something quietly strange happens. The work does not become easy. Let me be honest with you, because everyone else in this space lies about this part. Hard things stay hard. Heavy stays heavy. What disappears is not the difficulty, it's the argument. That 40-second negotiation at the alarm. The internal courtroom that convenes every time you sit down. The daily referendum on whether you're the kind of person who does this. That's what goes quiet. And on the other side of it, effort starts to feel less like a punishment and more like a texture you recognize. Like the ache after training that you genuinely miss. It doesn't feel like pleasure exactly. It feels like yours. More than a century ago, long before anyone could look at a dopamine neuron, William James wrote a chapter on habit that still holds up better than most of what's published today. He argued that the whole point of education is to make our nervous system our ally instead of our enemy. Not to overpower it, not to declare war on yourself every morning and lose, but to get the automatic part of you, the part that already made the decision before you woke up, working on the same side as the part of you that wants a different life. That's all discipline ever was. Not force, not virtue, just a nervous system that's been given a reason to expect something good. So, of the 5, which one is actually your missing piece? Paying the effort, moving the reward, shrinking the entry, designing the room, or ending on a win? Tell me in the comments, and be specific, because I read them, and I'm curious which one people land on most. And if you've been carrying the belief that you're just a lazy person, I hope this loosened it a little. You were never broken. You were trained by a system that only ever applauded outcomes. And training can be redone. If this made something click, hit like, and send it to the one person you know who's been fighting themselves at 6 a.m. for years and blaming their character for it. They probably don't need another motivational speech. They need to know it's conditioning. Thank you for spending your time here with Inside Logic. Subscribe and turn on notifications so we can keep pulling apart the hidden machinery of the mind together. See you in the next one.